Potentially dangerous days ahead. Right now, we're tracking what's shaping up to be a multi-day severe weather threat. I'm comparing the models and letting you know when those storms will arrive.
And while you were snoozing, for the first time in at least 3 weeks, a possible development in the Atlantic. What are the odds it's going to turn into a tropical storm? We're going to break that down for you.
Record high temps as the kids head back to school. But what does that mean for children stuck on hot school buses with no air conditioning? We are taking a look at just how hot those buses can get.
Plus, check this out, an amazing view of the aurora borealis that you won't find anywhere on Earth. Beautiful shot there. All right. Okay, good morning, space aliens. We've got a great forecast for you today. Hello and welcome to AMHQ Weekend. We are out of this world this morning, but we also happen to be here this Sunday morning, August 6th. 16th, we've got Kelly Cass back with us. And, of course, we've got our great commander, Dr. Greg Postel.
Oh, tons to talk about. You know, that severe weather threat will be ramping up from today through the middle of the week. And, of course, the tropics we were talking about. How about that? The Atlantic maybe waking.
Absolutely. Hey, take a look at this. Coming soon into your living room with these amazing images. Check out these, Dr. Greg and Kelly. Look at these bolts of lightning striking behind Boston's Prudential Center Tower. This happened just last night. Storms passed over the area. A lot of rain fell, too. We had reports of nearly 3.5 inches of rain over Natick, which led to some flooding of roads and homes also. When you have that kind of rainfall that quickly, Kelly, no surprise you have issues like flooding.
By the way, Boston, how about your Red Sox? 22 runs in the game yesterday, so they won 22-10.
That sounds like a football score.
I know, right? Isn't that crazy? I had to do a double take on that one.
Exactly. As long as the baseballs are not deflated, I think we're going to be A-OK.
Oh.
Sorry, Tom Brady, I love you.
Couldn't resist.
Summer heat going to pop up across parts of the Northeast. Thunderstorms on the Gulf Coast. But Kelly, the heat continues out to the west.
Yeah, this is really dangerous heat. We're talking about well into the triple digits, places like Vegas, down through Phoenix. You can see the excessive heat warnings in effect, but this cold front is on the march. Yes,
and that's part of our top story. The chance of having some rough stories driving through much of the region. We're going to be talking about that coming up in a few moments. But the Front Range of Denver, take a look. The Rockies look beautiful. You've got highs that are going to be reaching the low 80s today. Biggest threat we've got for you today is going to be the severe storms that are on the move. Now, are we talking about a huge outbreak? We're going to talk to Dr. Postel about that coming up in a few moments, but at least there's a chance of heavy rainfall and gusts possible around 45 miles per hour. Kelly?
Yeah, we can't rule out the possibility of some isolated tornadoes, but again, the main threat is always going to be those damaging winds in excess of 60 miles per hour. Large hail, certainly a possibility. You guys know all about that here in the plains. We get that quite often, but from Cheyenne to Denver, we are on the lookout for storms all the way through the Central Plains into Des Moines. We've got our state fair going on in Iowa. We don't want any storms around, but we're going to be tracking them for you. First of all, it's Minneapolis's turn. We got the Twins at home today. We do see that line of storms kind of weakening as it approaches. It's well ahead of the cold front itself, and that cold front itself is really going to pack a punch. So here's a look at our forecast. You'll notice as the rain kind of dissipates over Minneapolis by later this morning, right around brunch time. And as we head toward the dinner time hour, say around 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, we'll see a few more rain showers moving into Minneapolis. Eau Claire, Wisconsin could get in some heavy downpours and some frequent lightning with that. Denver, we're also tracking a little bit of wet weather for you this morning. We saw maybe one lightning bolt just a little while ago. So not a whole lot happening right now. But as we track this moving forward, here's our futuristic radar showing the showers over the eastern parts of Colorado, moving into western Kansas, western Nebraska as well. And you'll note that we'll get more thunderstorms going across the Mile High City later on this afternoon and this evening. Here's a look at our forecast for tomorrow. We've got a lot of red on the map here as well, all across the Central Plains down towards Kansas and even down into the panhandles of Oklahoma and Texas. Main threat, damaging winds and large hail, but again, we can't rule out the possibility of some twisters in this area. In fact, we're giving it a 3 out of 10 in parts of Wyoming. That's a 30% chance, also a 30% chance in western Nebraska and western Kansas. So make sure you've got a way to get those warnings. Reynolds?
All right, Kelly, thanks so much. Let's talk about specific cities, my good friends. We've got Des Moines, Kansas City, and Wichita for you that are right here on the screen. And we have that Torcon. Torcon is basically your tornado condition index within 50 miles. Right now, as it stands, we've got a 3 out of 10 for Des Moines, afternoon and evening for Kansas City all day, and Wichita, it's also a 3 out of 10. Afternoon and evening is going to be the time frame. To give us a better idea about the severe weather potential, we're going to send it on over here to Dr. Greg Postel. And Dr. Postel, one of your favorite cities, in America, talking Kansas City. What do you think? Still looking 3 out of 10?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean,
Yeah.
what we're going to see is a cold front moving through over the next couple of days. Big change in the weather pattern. That's the reason why we're going to see that severe weather. And on Tuesday, it ramps up a little bit more. Let's go to the maps and show you where the area outlined in red is expected to see some of that severe weather. Again, the primary hazards would be hail and high winds, but tornadoes are a possibility all the way from the northern plains into parts of the western Great Lakes into the southern plains. So Kansas City, as you mentioned, is included in one of those areas. Let's have a look at the water vapor. I mean, right now in the satellite pictures, Reynolds, we can kind of see those changes taking place. In fact, right here, there's a whole lot of swirly activity going on. Right up in there, there's a new upper trough that's coming in. That's pretty potent for this time of year. And that dip in the jet stream, so to speak, that's just a different way of putting it.
Sure.
Has got a lot of wind energy with it, and it's got a lot cooler temperatures aloft with it. So adding some of those ingredients up, you can sense that this little dip in the jet stream right in here, I put those jet stream winds coming around like that. That whole stuff is moving that way, and it's going to crack that ridge that's been in place. It's been really hot, you know, over the northern plains. Minneapolis has been in the 90s. Well, this is going to change that as that trough in the jet stream moves through, and you can see sort of the shape of it if you're familiar with what's called a negative tilt. That doesn't mean a whole lot necessarily in this case, but it just tells you that it's a very well-defined circulation that will have strong low pressure underneath it moving northward across the plains.
What do you think about these in terms of speed? Are these going to be quick movers? Is this going to be something where we're going to see a lot of training over the same area again and again?
Well, what I think is the cold front is going to overtake everything. And
Okay.
I think everything is going to be driven by that powerful cold front with shifting winds as you go up in altitude a little bit, which is one of the reasons why supercells are a possibility near that front. But when you have fronts moving through and being the primary mechanism driving the thunderstorms, oftentimes you end up with squall lines that last a long time overnight as well. So we'll be dealing with that, I think, on Wednesday.
All right, tough guy. Hey, coming up, we're going to talk about school buses and how hot they get with this August heat. And welcome back, everyone. Here's a shot from Seaside Heights, New Jersey. Wow, should be a pretty hot day along the shore today. Perfect day for going to the beach, calling for high around 85 degrees, mid-80s through much of the week, plenty of sunshine. Folks, keep in mind, if you're not a fan of the heat and you happen to be in the Northeast, enjoy the last little tiny bit of summer's fury, because before you know it, next couple of months, we're going to be talking about cooler times and maybe even the dreaded S word, snow. Is the what I'm referring to. All right, take a look. That low current risk, easy for me to say, easy for you to swim. No major threats out there from Seaside Heights all the way down to Wildwood. Should be picture perfect for you. That big area of high pressure is going to slide its way offshore. The result is going to be humidity is going to be on the upswing. But we cast our eyes out towards the west. We see that trough beginning to develop. The jet stream still to the north, so we're going to stay fairly mild for the eastern third of the country. The result is going to be high temperatures above normal in Burlington, Rochester, Pittsburgh, Washington, D.C., Boston, and New York. New York going in with 91 degrees, the expected high for the day. For tomorrow, take a look at this. Going to 93 as you head back to work. Rochester, you've got 90 degrees. If you're playing hooky, it's going to be perfect times for you. D.C., 95 degrees can be expected. Tomorrow, though, look at the airports. The forecast we have, first the records. The record at LaGuardia Airport was set back in 1944. We're going back to World War II. You got, let's see, 90s there, 91 degrees, 1997 for Islip, Wilkes-Barre. You've got Scranton, 95. So we're not going to break any records, but getting awfully close in these spots with highs tomorrow that we anticipate to get up into the 80s and into some 90s up there. Now, what we can expect in New York, though, we've had 8 days of 90-degree temperatures or warmer so far this year. We average about 17 days per year. Last year, there were only 8. So, yes, certainly warmer times. All right, let's send back to our own New Yorker. Let's send back to Kelly.
That's right, Reynolds. Cities all across the country are heading back to school this month during searing summer temperatures. And many of those buses don't even have air conditioning. So how hot does it get inside those buses? We sent our Mike Seidel back to school to find out.
Kids are heading back to school, but it's still the blazing heat of late summer. Temperatures out here about 100 degrees. We wondered, how hot does it get on an unair-conditioned bus with the windows down? Let's find out. The air conditioning is on in the bus right now, and it's pretty comfortable, about 85 degrees. But what happens to the temperature when we turn the AC off and open up all of these windows? We've got the windows down. It's the heat of the afternoon. The outdoor temperature is 101. Heat index 109. How does it feel on the bus? It's hot. It's sticky. I'm sweating. But what we're seeing here is the temperatures in the bus aren't much hotter than they are outdoors in the shade. This is what we've got right now, just a little bit under 102 degrees. It's still hot, it's still sticky. It kind of feels like a hairdryer is blowing through the bus right now. So what we found out on this triple-digit day is it's hot on the bus and it's sticky. A couple of degrees warmer than outside, but it's really no different than sitting outside under the shade of a tree with a breeze blowing.
Yeah, here in Georgia, it's hot. My kid's school bus driver, she's got a little fan that runs right near the steering wheel, and trust me, it's not enough. I could see her mopping the sweat off her forehead. So Greenville, South Carolina is going to be a hot one for the buses here as well. As the kids go back to school on Tuesday, though, it looks like slightly cooler temperatures, hit or miss thunderstorms, and then as you can see, Wednesday, a better chance for those afternoon thunderstorms. You might want to meet the kids at the bus stop when they return home from school that day. Here is a look at our next 7 days, because we've got a forecast that features not just heat, but humidity and more thunderstorms as well building across the south. You can see that right here along the Gulf Coast. A hot one for Hotlanta, of course, 89 degrees today. You can see the severe threat in the red across the plains back towards the Mile High City, Denver. It's going to be a hot one, and then we've got the storms on top of that. As we head into tomorrow, we're going to be tracking rain from Chicago. There could be some delays at O'Hare, hopefully not. Birmingham, Huntsville, if you've got to drive in through Alabama, it looks like a wet one for you. Miami getting up to 90 degrees with that chance for showers and thunderstorms. Meanwhile, the west, pretty much dry. It's all in the middle of the country and across the northeast eventually on Tuesday as we see those showers start to move in to Niagara Falls, down towards Pittsburgh, all the way through Charlotte, North Carolina, down towards New Orleans. We've got the rain and the forecast for you as well. Wednesday still looks pretty soppy across the eastern half of the country, while the west looks very quiet actually, but very warm in Seattle. For those of you without the AC, 88 degrees for your high temperature. And then as we head towards Thursday, it looks like a busy one here in the northeast. Could be some delays at LaGuardia, Newark, Kennedy, also tracking that rain through the Outer Banks of North Carolina. If you're doing that last minute getaway to the Outer Banks, looks a little bit wet and stormy. Friday still very soupy across the south, and that means, you guessed it, more showers and thunderstorms, Reynolds.
There you go.
That does it.
Well, staying on that trend about the showers and storms, coming up on AMHQ Weekend, we're going to be tracking a multi-day severe weather threat that actually begins today. And as Kelly showed you, we'll go all the way through the work week. We've got that story coming up in a few moments.
Good Sunday morning, everyone. Take a look at this cool picture. Brian Radford snapped this on a flight Friday from Nashville to Raleigh. And these are altocumulus castellatus clouds. And you typically see these ahead of some thunderstorms, and they get their resemblance because the turrets of castles and are often a warning of impending thunderstorms, almost like the reverse of mammatus.
Yeah, these are like the instability. It's showing a little bit of instability vertically in above the boundary layer. So they're not like the typical cumulus cloud. They're a little bit higher up, maybe 10,000 feet or higher than that even. But
still the puffy nature as you would typically see with a cumulus piling cloud.
Yeah, and I imagine flying through that layer, you get a little light chop at least as you go through some of those turbulent eddies that are going up and down.
Not a fan of any kind of chop when I'm flying, by the way.
Pork chop, maybe.
Just a pork chop to eat. All right, time now for a severe weather update, because we've got something brewing for the beginning to middle part of this week, and we just want to give everybody a heads up that we could see a lot of dangerous weather out there.
Yeah, we could, and it's actually some of the severe weather that's going to be in play today as well in kind of some of the same areas. So let's start out and go day by day from today, where we've got severe weather forecast across parts of the Midwest, Iowa, the lovely town of Des Moines. Have you ever been to Des Moines?
I have not.
It's very nice.
They got the state fair going on, by the way.
Yeah, they do. And it's a great place to be this time of year, as is many places in the Midwest and high plains there. So let's talk about the severe weather risk today. We got a little bit of a cold front trying to sag south. Not yet the big change of air mass that's going to be coming over the next couple of days. This is kind of a precursor, but there still could be some severe weather along this zone.
Yeah, we're watching Des Moines. There we are, about 6 o'clock. So far, so good for your corn dog for dinner. But, but then, yeah, we're going to have to watch that line. Some of that could get severe.
Yes, exactly right, Kelly. Now, let's go to tomorrow on Monday.
Okay.
Kind of the same areas, same sort of setup, you know, just little bit by little bit, that ridge is kind of getting shrunk down a little bit from the north, and new air masses are going to be gliding across the northern part, and we'll see some severe weather here tomorrow with hail and high winds being the primary threat. But you were talking about Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
Things are really going to begin to change.
All right, we got all the ingredients coming together, and it's great that we can actually track this from pretty far away, actually.
Yeah, and Kelly, we were looking at this earlier. There's a pretty good upper trough here that little pieces of it are breaking out. That's going to be the severe weather today and tomorrow. But the big kahuna is going to be coming in on Tuesday and Wednesday. And that upper trough is going to be the sign of a pretty significant pattern change for parts of the upper Midwest, where it's been in the 90s in Minneapolis. Hotter there than here.
Yeah.
But that's going to change as that cool pocket aloft moves in. So let's start on Tuesday.
All right, yeah, the stronger the air mass change, the stronger the storms may get,
Yep,
right? So we've got the red, including a lot of population here, Greg, from Minneapolis all the way down into Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah, and you know exactly where this all sets up. It's probably a little bit too early. We don't know where overnight thunderstorms might modify the position of the front. So just take this with I wouldn't say a grain of salt, but broad brush this area on Tuesday, where tornadoes could be a possibility because the upper level dynamics are very strong. Here on Monday, tomorrow, that's where that dip in the jet stream will be. Remember that one we were looking at earlier? There it is, and there it goes. It acquires this shape right here with well below temperatures aloft are going to be in place. So we got that cold air aloft and the powerful winds swirling around that on Wednesday. You really do get the sense that underneath that powerful dip in the jet stream, that low pressure is going to be sliding northward and creating some problems with lots of thunderstorms along that front.
More like a spring or fall pattern. We're going to dive deeper into why this is happening coming up at the bottom of the hour. But right now, let's go back to Reynolds.
You know, one of the places you guys are talking about that could be affected could be Dodge City, Kansas. In fact, they might be in the crosshairs of that severe weather possibility. Right now, as it stands, they have a Torcon of 3 in place on Monday. Storms moving in as early as tonight. So let's bring in Mike Umscheid. He is with the National Weather Service with Dodge City. Mike, how you doing this morning?
Good. How about you?
Doing fantastic. Thanks so much for getting up bright and early with us, or dark and early with us. What's the time frame that you have for this in terms of the potential of this severe weather, I wouldn't say outbreak, but severe weather possibility?
Yeah, we're going to be looking at the first events of this multi-day event coming in late tonight. And we expect storms to start forming across far northwest Kansas, probably this afternoon, this evening, and it'll drift southeast. But that'll be the first of what we think will be several rounds going all the way through Tuesday. Monday and Tuesday will be the best for here in southwest Kansas.
Mike, super fast. I know your number one job is to keep people safe in your area. What advice would you give to people who call that area home in terms of this threat over the next several days?
Oh, absolutely. I think the best advice is stay tuned to your favorite weather source station, whether it be Weather Channel or local TV stations. And of course, we're pretty viable on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and we're posting updates quite often on those outlets to get the word out for coming severe weather.
Absolutely. Hey, I think we're losing your phone call, but hey, thanks so much for your great service, the men and women of the National Weather Service out of Dodge City, Kansas. Hey, folks, we're going to dodge over some commercials. We'll see you on the other side of the break. Oh, wow, take a look at this awesome shot of double rain shafts in the Tri-Cities area. This happened around 7 last night. We had 2 cells near Boring, Tennessee, which is anything but. and from a distance, just an amazing and compelling sight. Surprisingly, very little rain recorded at the local airport. In fact, they had just a trace. All right, welcome back to AMHQ Weekend. Rain shafts like that will be a common sight, possibly over the next couple of days. Kelly, we've been talking about the chance of severe storms. Greg, though, you would never qualify this as saying this is an outbreak possibility, would you?
I wouldn't worry about the words. I mean, you know, I don't know exactly if it's going to end up being that way, and I don't think we should get caught up in that. But I think what's important to know is that there's potential for a lot of severe weather in the middle of the week, in the middle of the country, including places like, for example, Chicago, Des Moines, Minneapolis, Indianapolis. I mean, pick your spot on the map. This is a pretty widespread region over the next several days, probably more robust Tuesday and Wednesday than if I were to pick 2 days, those would be the ones. But this is, you know, a pretty potent event that we
So
haven't.
if not an outbreak, certainly an elevated risk
Yeah.
that we need to be concerned about for
Absolutely.
a lot of populated
Oh yeah,
areas.
yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that we haven't seen much of it in this part of the country for the last few weeks. A little bit here and there, right? But this is much more substantial. Pretty strong cold front's going to be coming through.
Well,
No
then
doubt
why
about that.
is this happening now? What is, I mean, if this is kind of an anomaly, what are the things that are coming together to give us this potential?
Yeah, well, you know what? That cold front is a big thing. The ridge is finally breaking down in the northern plains, and that is something that they've seen and experienced. You know, these 100-degree temperatures in the Dakotas. That's pretty nuts. So that's a pretty hot air mass that's been there, and now it's finally getting cracked. So we're getting some much cooler temperatures coming in to that part of the country. And let me go back one graph. Greg, Diamond, and Shane, would you guys be able to go back one graphic on this? I want to show you some of these statistics in the summer months to talk about how August isn't necessarily the month you think of when you think of big time severe weather. So going from May to June, you can sort of go through the numbers.
Wow, very interesting. Yeah, it kind of falls off. May really active, June pretty darn
Yeah.
close, but then move forward in time and the threat really lessens.
Yeah, though that sort of orange bar is the tornado averages that you get, and the yellow bar is the severe thunderstorms. And so you can see how that you go from May, June, July, yeah, you kind of see them a lot. But then August, it really begins to drop off. And now this is one of those examples where, you know, this may be one of the bigger severe weather threats that we'll see this month, because typically we don't get that many in
I mean,
August.
typically we do get those, pop-up thunderstorms
Yeah.
on a summer day in August, but this is just a little more elevated. We got the dynamics going for us. All the ingredients kind of coming together for this go around.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you know, that's one of the interesting things about this, is that this is a powerful upper level low that's going to be moving in, and there are some ingredients there that make you go, wow, okay, this is going to be, you know, a pretty big deal. I think, and this is what I hope, is that things sort of turn into a line of thunderstorms that goes through the night, which is problematic in itself, but hopefully we can limit some of that tornado risk by the powerful sort of broad scale forcing that's going to be involved. When you have like cold fronts and big changes of air mass, sometimes the tornado risk comes down and it's more of a severe thunderstorm, which is a big problem, but hopefully we'll keep it that way.
Yeah, let's keep the fingers crossed. Let's hope we're lucky that, hey, you want a shot of New Orleans? Well, you're lucky there. We've got a stormy day in store for you, but a beautiful shot nonetheless. Always interesting there. Stormy conditions, scattered thunderstorms can be expected. Could see up to maybe an inch of rain or so in the area today. So that could be something that you're going to have to deal with, folks. So keep the umbrellas handy. Could be kind of active. If you were tuning in, say, from Biloxi this morning, if you were to take a look, maybe you're at the casino, you look outside, you look over the coast, you might see some flashes of lightning off in the distance. Well, here's your big activity maker. You see these popping up over near Cat Island, moving on shore. I'll tell you, raining cats and dogs for the time being, but look at the lightning, quite a bit of that south of Slide Hill. Let's see, down near Venice. Man, pavement stops when you get down towards Venice in the mouth of the Mississippi River. It is an interesting spot down there, to say the least. This morning, you've got some interesting weather. We make our way back up to the Florida Panhandle from Gulf Shores, Perdido Key, Destin. You've got thunder boomers, Freeport, same story. We drive our way a bit back to the east, and you'll see that those showers are going to become very numerous across much of Florida. In fact, any place you go in Florida today, you're going to have a chance of those thunder boomers popping up, which is actually a good thing for much of South Florida. I know you're saying, hey, in Tampa and points north, we don't need any more rain, but if you're in Miami, you certainly do. Kelly, good chance of rain throughout much of the south over the next several days, including Atlanta with 82. Kelly?
Could we have some of that rain maybe in California, Reynolds?
Oh, they need it, don't they?
Oh, that would be nice. But, Los Angeles, it's going to be a hot one for us. 72 degrees right now, so it's not too bad. But by lunchtime, we're back in the 90s in some areas. In fact, we saw 81 at the airport yesterday, your average high mid-70s, and your Dodgers are home against Cincinnati Reds, so you definitely want to stay hydrated and just kind of be prepared for the heat all across the area, maybe heading out to Anaheim, Disneyland today. It's going to be a hot one out there. As you can see, these forecast highs, Santa Clarita getting up to 105, and right in downtown LA, we're talking 92. To beat the heat, you really head over toward the coast where it's going to be a little bit cooler. That's where the airport is located, by the way. 81, and as I mentioned, that is even above your average of the mid-70s. So ridge of high pressure, pretty strong actually across the entire western United States. So it's going to be hot for places like Death Valley, Las Vegas, Phoenix. If you're hiking up towards Grand Canyon, doing some biking in Moab, Utah, it is going to be certainly a hot one for you as well. Here's a look at your high temperatures. Keep in mind we've got those excessive heat warnings and heat advisories in effect. And this is in an area typically known for the heat. So it's bad. We've got one 112 in Vegas, that's 10 degrees above average. 114 in Phoenix, even that is above your average for this time of the year. Maybe a dry heat, but it's still a dangerous heat. So make sure the car is good to go. If the belt were to break on you or the battery died or whatever, you definitely want a way to stay hydrated and cool in this kind of heat. All right, Death Valley, let's talk about you guys because, of course, you're known for the heat. Yesterday's high, 123 degrees. I don't think I've ever felt heat quite like that. The hottest temperature recorded in the U.S. this year, as a matter of fact. Monday, we're still going to be up around 120 degrees. So today a hot one, tomorrow a hot one for you. Phoenix, the heat goes on and on. Our average high is 105, and we are going to be well above that, at least through about Friday. We start to take it off a little bit, 106, but that's still hot, Reynolds.
Yeah, nice and frosty for you at that 106. Goodness gracious, no, and blazing heat, folks. Hey, we're going to blaze our way through this commercial, and coming up next on AMHQ Weekend and new this morning, developing overnight a new area and weather brewing in the Atlantic. The chance it could turn into another tropical system, we're going to let you know coming up in just a few moments. And welcome back, everyone. Vegas. Oh my goodness, how we love you. It is going to be a warm day today. You're going to be coming very close to hitting a record today. In fact, we forecasted for 112 degrees. That's 10 degrees above average. Crazy town. Well, not really crazy. I mean, Vegas is certainly a fun town. It's a place that certainly is always vibrant, always crazy, and at this point, awfully warm. Hey, take a look what we have for you in terms of your forecast today. Well, actually, this is from yesterday. These are all the record-breaking temperatures that we had, and it's not just your usual suspects in spots like Phoenix or Las Vegas. San Francisco hit 92 degrees. My gosh, that's crazy. In Salt Lake City, just south of the Wasatch, or just in the foothills of the Wasatch, you've got 93 degrees, 98 in Denver. Bismarck with 105 degrees, Rapid City rapidly warming up near the Black Hills, going up in the triple digits. You had 40 highs, 40 record highs that were tied and broken just yesterday, and we can expect the heat to continue. Notice all the way from the Bay Area down to about San Luis Obispo County, Las Vegas, much of the desert Southwest, excessive heat warnings, advisories. It is going to be just crazy and fuego for you. In Vegas, the record high was set back in 1939 of 113. Today we're going 112. May actually break that record, getting very close. San Francisco, the record high in 1960 was 86. Today, forecasting a high of 87 degrees. So you get the deal. Still stifling heat out towards the west. Let's send it back to Kelly.
Well, Reynolds, it's already been an epic summer of fierce wildfires and punishing heat. Right now, at least 17 fires are burning across the state of California, the state already well ahead of last year's pace. NBC's Gotti Schwartz has more on the race to fight them and the call to bring in crews all across America.
Scorching heat in the west means even more wildfires. In Southern California, the heat wave stoking two separate fires near Los Angeles, one threatening 500 homes, the other torching cabins and scattering wildlife.
It's brutal when you get the temperature and the dryness involved, and then the steepness of some of these slopes makes for very challenging physically.
Along the fire lines, more triple-digit temperatures as 13,000 firefighters now battle 17 wildfires. These crews are working in extreme heat. Right now it's 103 degrees. They are carrying about 60 pounds of gear, and it's only expected to get hotter. Around the state, temperatures are cooler, but not by much.
How hot is it?
100.
The sun stifling everyone forced to work outdoors.
It's pretty hot. Yeah, we're trying to take our breaks when we can.
And as school starts up again, this marching band practicing how to stay cool. In Arizona, a high school football team packed up and moved into a gym because of the heat.
It does put us at a disadvantage, but still, you got to go with a healthy group of kids, and that's number one.
Blistering temperatures baking not only California, but most of the southern United States. The temperatures sending thousands of families straight to the beach.
At least 25 degrees is worse than normal. Yes, summer has started for us in Southern California.
While crowds look for relief from record temperatures and historic drought, it'll be a long summer for firefighters gearing up not only here in California, but across the West, battling what already seems to be a never-ending fire season.
All right, first of all, we salute the firefighters, the men and women who are doing all they can to fight these fires. It's not even really fire season yet across the West, but it's been so dry and so warm, and you think that when we get thunderstorms, that helps us out with the rain. But, you know, unfortunately, we get something called dry lightning and hot lightning that can actually cause more lightning to happen. But let's talk about the difference between hot lightning and quote-unquote cold lightning. It has nothing to do with temperatures because both are actually about the same temperature. We're talking about 15 to 60 60,000 Fahrenheit degrees. So, but basically when you get the hot lightning strike, it's a much longer duration of a weak continuing current between stronger strokes. So you get that long continuous that allows the material to really heat up to combustion and get fires to occur, and not as much rainfall coming down out of these thunderstorms either. And that commonly ignites the wildfires to happen in places like California that we're seeing so many of that happening right now. But with the cold lightning, you get that return stroke of a shorter duration. So even though they're both about the same temperature, cold lightning not as common with the wildfires. But of course, as we get into the fall season, Reynolds, we get more wind occurring, and that's typically when we get fire season. So unfortunately, already off to an early start here.
That is so true, Kelly. And folks, coming up on AMHQ Weekend, we were going to talk about that subject. Plus, we're watching an area in the tropics and the Atlantic. Sit tight. And welcome back to AMHQ Weekend. It is time for the tropical update. You know, it's funny, Greg, we've been talking so much about the Pacific. We've kind of forgotten there is this other body of water that's a little bit farther out to the east, the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Some activity, huh?
Yeah, well, there's an area of disturbed weather. A tropical wave moved off Africa yesterday. We were looking at it. Today it's gotten a little bit better organized, and right now it's called an invest because the National Hurricane Center is investigating the area for possible development. 96L it's called. It's this area right here, not that far south of the Cape Verde Islands. 20% chance over the next 5 days of turning into a depression or a named storm. But we're going to keep an eye on it because I want to point out that some of the models actually kind of like it and keep it going as it goes westward.
Well, it does seem to have some good convection right now. What are the big obstacles that it may be facing over the next couple of days?
In the Atlantic, it's tough to get a tropical cyclone pretty much anytime, anywhere in the Atlantic. It is a hostile place compared to the Pacific. There are all kinds of obstacles typically in the way: dry air, stable air, you name it, wind shear. Right now, looking at the visible satellite shot, I've seen worse, Reynolds. I mean, there's a cluster of thunderstorms right here, and the water is relatively warm, not crazy warm as it is in the Western Atlantic, but here warm enough to support some thunderstorms. And where we're watching this thing develop is along what's called a monsoon trough. So there's an area, and I colored the wind flow near the surface to show you the different directions of the wind. So we got the south wind in red and the north wind in blue, and that sort of area of confluence and ultimate spin is helping to get this thing going and helping to support it. You got this background circulation already there with some thunderstorms moving over that area to boot.
Water temperatures, what are you thinking?
Enough.
Yeah.
Warm enough. Yeah, and it's going to keep moving over warmer and warmer waters as it goes on off toward the west. So these areas where you have this sort of confluence of these very different airstreams over the tropical Atlantic are basically places, hot spots you look for tropical development because you get that pre-existing circulation along those zones. And that's exactly what we've got here along the monsoon trough. So this possible development area kind of headed that way at relatively low latitude, so we're going to keep an eye on it. There's no obvious sign that immediately it's going to turn northward out to sea. It's part of really a train of tropical waves that we've been looking at last couple days. There is the one, 96L right now. That's it right there. But there's a couple out ahead of it. I don't think those guys are going to turn in anything. I think they're going to move harmlessly off to the west. But 96L right here, it's this one that we need to keep an eye on because some of the models keep some of those thunderstorms with it and move it along toward the west. And I'll just show you one of the models here that kind of keeps a little bit of a blob of low pressure right there. There's a little bit of a circle, and that kind of means something when the models do that.
Okay, Greg, thanks so much. Yeah. Well, folks, it's the video you've got to see this morning, out of this world view of the Northern Lights. Wow, we'll take another gander at that coming up. Oh, it's the most wonderful time of the year. State Fair season in Iowa. 1 million people are expected to turn out for this year's event.
I thought you were about to say back to school, your favorite time of year. Highlights, by the way, include a cow carved out of 600 pounds of butter. That's enough butter for more than 19,000 slices of toast. And an interesting fact, most of that butter is actually recycled and reused for up to 10 years. So no eating that butter.
That is just delicious. This year, the fair features more than 70 different foods on a stick, including chocolate-covered chunky bacon maple nougat on a stick. Good gosh almighty! Wow, just take the stick and just impale yourself in the heart. Good gosh. It's delicious, though, folks. Hey, apple pie on a stick, also a favorite thing. You see the kids there munching, and they'll be munching with partly cloudy skies today, a chance of storms tomorrow, Kelly.
Yeah, the forecast calling for that hot weather, so the ice cream melts quickly. Make sure you lick it up real fast today. 87 degrees, and then we'll have to watch out for storms. Some of those storms could be severe, by the way, late in the day. So if you're going to be doing the rides or anything like that, make sure you've got your Weather Channel app and have that radar handy, because it could get pretty interesting tomorrow. There you go. Very good advice. And we go from the land of fried food to the one where you have tang and freeze-dried stuff. That's right. Up in space, astronauts. It's more proof that being an astronaut is one of the coolest jobs in the universe. It really is. And, you know, the NASA crew aboard the space station has been sharing more stunning images. In fact, you can see it behind us right now. Amazing time-lapse of the aurora borealis, the northern lights, and meeting up with the sunrise at the same time. This is 220 miles above the Earth. Yeah, it's quite a view. That's the way to do it. Astronaut Scott Kelly sharing this on Twitter last night on the 141st day of his year in space mission. Wow. Tweeting out, the chapter of a day ends as it began, aurora on the sunrise. Good night, folks, from the space station. Shades of green and purple, gorgeous. Beautiful, just like the fried food at the State Fair. Yeah. Beautiful stuff. All right, folks, don't get fried out. Stick around with us. We got to talk about a severe weather threat coming up in a few moments. That's right. We could have some very active, dangerous weather coming up in the next couple of days. We'll time it out for you coming up.